welcome to Goodwood and the Festival of Speed. This is one of the most prestigious events on the British motor racing calendar. It attracts a fantastic selection of vehicles from all around the world, and some of the biggest names in the sport have come here this year to put them through their paces up the famous Goodwood Hill. So join me and the rest of the F1 ITV team for the next hour while we take a look at the very best of all that is motor racing. Murray Walker meets up with an old friend and shows us some of his favourite historic Formula One cars, while Tony Jardine lays down the gauntlet and challenges Jenson Button to a race up the hill climb course. James Allen meets some of his racing heroes and takes us back to the glory days of the Silver Arrows. There's plenty of action on the hill climb course, and I'll be at the Cartier exhibition area looking at some rather different cars. But first of all, let's have a chat with the organiser of this incredible event, Lord March. It is an incredible event as well, isn't it? And to me, it seems to get bigger and better every year.
Yeah, we do try. And I think the cars this year are probably all the best we've ever had. And we've got a fantastic lineup of drivers. This
is a fabulous setting, obviously, but Goodwood, it has a real history of motorsport, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. My grandfather opened a circuit here, which is about a mile away. Meeting which we have in September every year in 1948, and that closed in '66. It was really since that closure that I've been very, very keen to bring motorsport back to Goodwood.
And how did this come about?
Well, I was always brought here as a child. We used to stay here for the Easter Monday meeting at Goodwood, and I met all the drivers, and I can remember them all being in the house, and there was a big drinks party always, and it was just a passion, really.
The thing I really love about the weekend is the fact that it's so relaxed and so accessible as well. I mean, you can get really close to the cars here, can't you?
Yeah, it's the whole point of it, really, is that we're trying to make it very open, very easy for people. There are no restrictions, everybody goes everywhere, you don't get special treatment wherever you are, and that's how it is.
You've obviously come dressed for action. What are you racing this weekend?
I have, haven't I? Well, I'm driving a Porsche 9083, which is a Targa Florio car, 1970 car, perfect for the job. Less perfect driver, but the car's good.
Well, I hope it goes well. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Pleasure, thanks.
Time to catch up with James now. He's checking out some of the hardware on display down at Mercedes.
Well, every year at Goodwood they celebrate a motoring milestone, and this year it's 100 years of Mercedes-Benz. They've actually been building Grand Prix cars since the early 1900s. I want to show you this monster though, from 1908, a 13.5 litre engine kicking out about 140 brake horsepower, and look at this ribbon-thin tyres of rock-hard rubber. These guys were pioneers. They really broke the mould. Chain drive, would you believe? No drive shaft. And here you can see, in those days, the mechanic used to drive with the driver in the car in case anything broke down, because they were massively long races, 600-700 miles at a time in some cases. This is one of the very early and very rarest Mercedes Grand Prix cars. Mercedes totally dominated the 1930s in Grand Prix racing with the awesome W125s. These things were way ahead of their time, over 600 brake horsepower, and it wouldn't be until the turbo era in the 1980s that a Formula One car would be as powerful again. They were driven by heroes like Richard Seaman, Rudolf Caracciola and Manfred von Brauchitsch. These cars were awesome in every sense of the word. There's a lovely story attached to this car, the W165. Mercedes-Benz fancied taking on the big European manufacturers like Alfa Romeo in 1.5 litre Voiturette racing. So they designed and built this car in less than 8 months. Went to the 1939 Tripoli Grand Prix and beat the pants off everybody. This car was never raced again. Mercedes just did it to prove that they could. The team was ruled with a rod of iron by a man called Alfred Neubauer. He was the Frank Williams or Ron Dennis of his day, and he was massively successful. After the Second World War, he brought the Mercedes team back in 1954, once again hiring the best driver in the world, Juan Manuel Fangio, and again they led the way with their beautiful streamlined Silver Arrows. Fangio won the 1954 World Championship, and the following year he did it again. This time his teammate was Sterling Moss, and his car the beautiful W196. In Grand Prix after Grand Prix, the two of them would be out front and the rest of the field were nowhere. Sadly though, there was a tragedy in the Le Mans 24 hours of that year. A Mercedes-Benz went into the crowd, killing 85 spectators. The company withdrew from motorsport, and it wouldn't be until the early 1990s that Mercedes would be seen again in Formula One. But by far the most famous Mercedes-Benz of all is this one, car number 722, that won the 1955 Mille Miglia. It was driven then by Great Britain's leading Grand Prix ace Sterling Moss, and today it's being driven by our leading Grand Prix ace David Coulthard. A magic car.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. I've had the opportunity to drive it a couple of times before. Quite amazing how they managed to race these for as long as they did. If you look at my driving position here, they must have had large nether regions, because you see how far apart my legs have to be. You've got the clutch way over here, and you've got, I guess, the drivetrain between your legs and the throttle and brake over on the right-hand side. So incredible heat as well. It's not that warm here today at Goodwood, but I feel pretty hot in this cockpit.
Has this thing got launch control, David?
No, but it does have a very nice little gearbox here, which is something I haven't used in a long time. Yeah. So you probably heard me crunching it into gear. Even my road cars are automatic, so I'd forgotten how to use this. I'm here through my own personal choice. It's not a promotional day, it's not a request from the team. I just think it's a totally unique event. There's nothing like it in the world. To bring all these racing cars together, old and new, and to display them in such an intimate way is a remarkable achievement. And I think that Charles and his group of people here really deserve a lot of credit for it.
Thanks for talking to us, David. Well, there's some racing action taking place on the hill. Let's join our commentator, Simon Taylor.
Thanks, James. Well, this is a Mercedes Grand Prix car. It's the 60 horsepower, 9.2 litre monster which dominated the Gordon Bennett Trophy race around the Isle of Man 98 years ago in 1903. Now it belongs to the Mexican collector Arturo Keller. And this is an even more monstrous machine, the Fiat Mephistopheles. It was originally a 1907 Grand Prix car, but a daredevil British enthusiast called Ernest Eldridge squeezed a 22-litre airship engine into it, and in 1924 it set a new world's land speed record, 146 miles an hour on a stretch of public road in France. Today it belongs to the Fiat factory. That's Fausto Ronaldo of Fiat grappling with the controls. In those days, racing cars carried a riding mechanic to help mend it if it broke down. Well, those mechanics were surely even braver than the drivers. And here's the man who's going for fastest time in the class up the hill, expert vintage racer Simon Diffie in Julian Majoub's 1904 2832 Mercedes. He's steering with one hand and pumping up the fuel pressure with the other. It's a mere 5.5 litres, but it was very modern for its day and capable of a good 80 miles an hour. Well, Simon Diffie using every bit of that performance, and you see how totally unprotected race drivers were in those dangerous days. Well, there's the Fiat at the top of the hill, and that immense 6-litre unit, each cylinder has the capacity of an entire Jaguar engine of today. Mark Walker's 1908 Panhard is another Formula One car of its day. 4 cylinders, 13 litres, still chain drive, but a little bit more bodywork to protect the driver. It's wearing the national racing colour of French blue because it was built for the 1908 French Grand Prix. But at the 100 miles an hour it was capable of, they couldn't stop the tyres bursting. That's a rear-view mirror in front of driver Bill Spall on the Marmon Wasp, with which Ray Haroon won the very first Indy 500. Haroon didn't carry a riding mechanic to look behind for the pursuit, so he came up with the idea of a mirror, the first time one was ever used on a car. And this is the car that held the land speed record before Mephistopheles, John T. Williamson's superb V12 Delage, built in 1923 and still winning races at Brooklands a decade later. John T. crossing the line to go third quickest in the Brooklands outer circuit class. Well, we've seen the first Indy winner jump forward half a century, and this is what was winning Indy at the end of the 1950s, the Watson Offenhauser Roadster. And at the wheel, that great Indy and former Formula One driver, Danny Sullivan. The Offenhauser engine is a big 4.1-litre four-cylinder, masses of torque and speeds round the Indy Oval of 180 miles an hour. And you see how the cockpit is offset to one side, the engine offset to the other, for ideal lateral weight distribution, because at Indianapolis, they only turn left. This is the Maserati 8 CTF, built in 1939 for Grand Prix racing, but it went to America and ran at Indianapolis 5 times. At the wheel, one of our most skillful and experienced of historic drivers, Willie Green. A supercharged 3-litre straight 8, a huge amount of power going through those skinny wheels, a wonderful exhaust note mixing with the whine of the supercharger, and a class-winning time for Willie on the Goodwood Hill of 66.09 seconds. Well, we saw David Coulthard getting settled in the Mercedes 300 SLR. Now he leaves the line. 3-litre straight-8 power. This is Sterling Moss's Mille Miglia winning car of 1955. And the passenger headrest reminds us that this car too had a riding mechanic of a sort, because Sterling took the motorsport journalist Dennis Jenkinson with him on that record-breaking 1,000-mile run. Before the race, Jenkinson recorded on a paper roll every corner of the 1,000 miles and played a major part in Moss's win. David Coulthard just on a demo run now in this beautiful car, acknowledging the waves of the Goodwood crowd. Now this is the great John Surtees, world champion on 2 wheels and 4, really trying in the Tripoli Grand Prix Mercedes-Benz, a jewel of a car, just 1500cc, the first V8 engine that Mercedes ever built, and it dominated the only race it ever did in the last days before World War II, with Herman Lang and Rudy Caracciola finishing 1 and 2. And this is the Tripoli car's bigger sister, the 480 horsepower 4-cam V12 W154, which was as central a part of Formula One 63 years ago as the McLarens are today. And that's Jochen Mass in the cockpit, former Formula One McLaren driver himself. He loves Goodwood and he never misses this event.
Well, that's all from Goodwood for the moment, but don't go away because there is plenty more to come. James is going to be meeting up with some of his 2-wheel heroes. We've got more hill climb action, and I'm going to be catching a word with Jenson Button. Welcome back to Goodwood. It's amazing how many Formula One people have chosen to come here this weekend, on a weekend off of course, including Jenson Button. Is this a weekend off actually, or is this work for you?
It's work.
Yeah?
But it's good fun as well. I enjoy it a lot.
What are you actually doing?
I'm driving a very old car up the hill, which should be good fun, a 1902 Renault, which was used from Paris to Vienna.
Yeah.
And it was driven by Renault's brother, I think. Something like that. But it's cool, it's really, it's really old.
And this beastie as well?
Yeah, and I'm racing the old fart up the hill.
Who? Oh, Tony, yes. I think he's got a few plans for you actually.
Yeah, it should be good fun.
It'd be nice to get back in something that's got a bit of power, won't it?
Oh, you mean after the 1902?
Compared to what you've been, compared to what you've been driving the rest of this year, you'll be going for it in this one.
No, I'm always going for it. But no, it should be good fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've just purchased mine
have you?
About a week ago, so I've been practicing. You know, so I think I really need to against Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah, him in his hairdresser's car is going to be really tough.
Are you going to have a chance to look around the rest of the things here?
Hopefully, I want to go have a little look around. But it's going to be tough, I think, because it's very, very busy. No, it's great.
You came here last year, didn't you? I was going to say, you've been here before, so you know what the event's like.
Yeah, I know what it's like. This year is better though. It's a much bigger event. There's a lot more drivers here, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
Why do the drivers come here? I mean, I know you've got to work, but it seems like people choose. They're quite happy to come, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the older racing drivers as well come here. I suppose it's because there's no rules, maybe, I don't know. But it is a very special event. There's cars from all different ages, obviously from the early 1900s. So it's it's something that everyone can just relax, and the spectators can get close to everyone, and to the cars and the drivers. So it's just a very relaxed weekend. It's just like going away on holiday or something on the weekend, I suppose, for some people.
Well, have a good time. Thanks for talking to us. We're going to go and have a look at some hill climb action now with Simon Taylor.
Thanks, Louise. Well, this is perhaps the classic 1950s Formula One car, the 250F Maserati, as raced by Fangio and Moss in the mid-1950s. This is Clive Smith's car, and you can see how narrow the Goodwood Hill is, lined with straw bales, but the right-left swerve by that flinty wall is very unforgiving, before more lines of bales to the top of the hill. Now, here's a familiar crash helmet. That's 1996 world champion Damon Hill, having a run in the first all-American Formula One car, the Scarab Offenhauser. Oh, and a bit twitchy there, a bit of a misfire, and then when the power comes in with a jerk, Damon having to grapple with the wheel, and he's blipping the throttle to try and clear that misfire. The Scarab wasn't a success in Formula One back in 1959, but it always looked and sounded beautiful. That's the unmistakable white helmet and blue overalls of Sir Stirling Moss, Britain's finest driver of the post-war era. Stirling in that 300 SLR, of course, the Mille Miglia winning car, and he also won the Targa Florio and the Tourist Trophy in 1955 in a Mercedes SLR. This very C-Type Jaguar won Le Mans in 1953, driven by Tony Rolt and Duncan Hamilton. That's Adrian Hamilton, Duncan's son, in the car, one of the great sports car shapes of all time. Now here's a rare beast, the 3000 CM Alfa Romeo of the early 1950s. This is Fangio's 1953 Le Mans car, owned today by the American Alfa collector Henry Wessels and driven here at Goodwood by Chris Mann. And another Le Mans winner, Roy Salvadori and Carroll Shelby won the 24 Hours in 1959 in this Aston Martin DBR1, and it's raced today with tremendous verve by Peter Hardman, who has the power hard on up the hill, hangs out the tail as he swings right, then left past the wall. At this speed, it's like threading a needle getting the right line up this narrow hill, and the clock ticking. This is going to be a very quick climb indeed. Peter Hardman goes towards the line, flat out now in top gear. The finish line waiting for him over the brow. He crosses the line now. It's 58.1 seconds, a very quick climb indeed. Now, if local knowledge counts for anything, this should be a good climb. The Earl of March in his back garden in the 9083 Porsche Spider, an ultra-light, skimpy little two-seater built to win races round the Sicilian back roads of the Targa Florio, using a flat-8 air-cooled engine. A tremendously potent piece of kit, and it weighs virtually nothing, the driver sitting very close to the front wheel. There's a lot of cement dust that's been put down to soak up oil dropped by other competitors, so the hill is now extremely slippery. Lord March taking a cautious line into the left-hander at Moulcombe. More cement dust there, but this is Peter Hardman again, now in the little Ferrari Dino 206P, built to win the European Hill Climb Championship in the 1960s. A nimble little car, ideally suited to this sort of event, and it's going to be another quick time for Hardman. The clock ticking away as he comes over the brow, and it's 56.7. Now, as well as the cars, we've got some great motorcycles and motorcycle heroes here. Here's James Allen.
Well, thank you, Simon. Yes, indeed. Goodwood isn't just about four wheels, it's about two as well. And here we've got two of the greatest names in motorcycle history, Carl Fogarty and Wayne Gardner. Carl, it's brilliant that you've come along to be with the fans today, because they get really close to you here at Goodwood, don't they?
They do, yeah, a bit too close in a few places, but it's for them really. You know, we just sort of wobble up the hill and the fans love it, you know, and if it sends them home with a smile on their face, then it's been worthwhile coming, you know.
Because you've retired now from bike racing, but when you get on this thing, do you still want to give it the absolute maximum?
Well, I'd like to, but going up there it's pretty narrow. There's not much of a circuit, obviously, for these things. But yeah, it feels strange. It's the first time I've been on one since I retired from racing, and because of the injury, and getting back on my winning bike from 1999 is a bit strange, especially in a place like this, which is totally different to what I'm used to, but like I say, the fans love it, so it's great.
It must be wonderful to be reminded of just how popular you are in this
country.
It's
incredible. I can't believe it. It's just the following I've got. It's incredible. Really
brilliant. Well, nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Wayne Gardner, of course, world motorcycle champion. You too have got a massive fan club here in the UK, haven't you?
Yeah, you know, had some pretty humble beginnings over here, and I got to thank the British. They've been very supportive of my career, and you know, look, it's obviously I'm still proud to be Australian, but I really believe that. You know, the British made my career for me. So, you know, I've got a lot of memories and a lot of thank yous, and it's kind of nice to be here to catch up with a lot of faces, so it's great, yeah.
What's it like to go shooting up the hill on a Grand Prix 500?
It's a little bit hairy, actually, because they've got plenty of power and, unfortunately, too many corners, but it's fun. Look, it's fun just as I said to wave to the crowd, and it's fun to ride a Grand Prix. I mean, it's 10 years since I rode a Grand Prix bike, so it's kind of good to get my leg over one of those and get the feel of it, but I prefer a little bit longer straights and get it wound out. It'll be a bit more fun. But look, it's just great to be here.
Well, it's great for you to be here. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, James.
Cheers.
Tremendous variety among the racing motorcycles here. This is the great Luigi Taveri in the incredible 1966 Honda RC149. 125cc, 5 cylinders, 20,000 RPM. And Taveri, winner of 5 1964 Grand Prix and the world title. And this is the BMW F650 Paris-Dakar Enduro bike. John Deacon, 10-time British Enduro champion, pulling a big wheelie and staying up there until he gets to the first double right-hander and going onto the grass, showing that you don't need to stay on the tarmac in enduro racing. John Deacon happy on any type of surface. And that familiar helmet once again, Damon Hill on the BMW R1100S, as campaigned in the Boxer Cup throughout Europe this season. Damon, of course, the last Formula One world champion to have cut his motorsporting teeth on two wheels and very much at home on a big bike. And not only was he a multiple race winner on two wheels, he also earned his daily bread for a while as a motorcycle messenger around the streets of London. Through the long right-hander, and now he's slowing down, he's having a look over his shoulder, and he's having a bit of fun. Nice wheelie from Damon Hill as he squirts on the power and goes up, and here's a bigger wheelie still. This is Wayne Gardner, the 1987 world champion, astride the 1989 Honda NSR 500. This is the actual machine used that year by world champion Eddie Lawson. And Wayne Gardner putting on a superb show for the Goodwood crowd. But here is the ultimate showman. It's 4 times world superbike champion Carl Fogarty, lighting up his back tire and enjoying himself on the bike that brought him his last title, the Ducati 996 SBK. It's great to see Foggy back on two wheels once again after the injury that ended his career. Surely the most popular motorcycle star of recent years as far as the British crowds are concerned. And he's certainly much appreciated by the Goodwood audience, who are giving him a tremendous reception. In fact, we've had a great display from all the bikes, but now it's time to go back to Louise.
There's some real driving talent on display here this weekend, and there's plenty more where that came from. After the break, Tony Jardine will be challenging Jenson Button to a race up Goodwood Hill, and I'll be taking a slightly more leisurely stroll through the Cartier exhibition. Welcome back to Goodwood. We've got some more hill climb action now with Simon Taylor. On track right now are the American muscle cars and the awesomely powerful Can-Ams.
Thanks, Louise. Well, this class is called Oversize and Over Here. It is the American muscle cars of the 60s and 70s. And this is Daniel Leipitz in the ex-Parnelli Jones Boss 302 Mustang, which won 5 of the 9 Trans Am Championship rounds in 1970. Huge slick tyres, lots of weight and massive horsepower. And on board this 1985 Budweiser Chevy Monte Carlo is NASCAR legend Darrell Waltrip. 84 NASCAR victories and 3 championship titles. And the car prepared by another NASCAR legend, Junior Johnson, himself a NASCAR champ from an earlier era. Car pretty much muscle-bound on this narrow little hill. This 1968 Pontiac Firebird was developed and raced by the late Jerry Titus. And not only was it hugely fast in Trans Am, but it also ran in the Daytona 24 Hours in 1969 and finished an astonishing 3rd overall. It belongs today to Ron Huber. Now this is the Hemi Underglass Dragster. A 1,000 horsepower engine in this Plymouth Barracuda is over the back wheels. There's very little weight at the front. And veteran drag racer Bob Riggle can pull this party trick anytime he wants. But that's not in the script. He's landed crooked, he's in the bails, but he's still going. Bob Riggle back on the tarmac, seems pretty unconcerned, and he's going to do it again. Gets the car stopped, pops the clutch, now! And up on the back wheels it goes with showers of sparks from the skid plates at the back. Now this is the biggest Ferrari racing car ever built, the 7-litre Can-Am Type 712. It belongs to millionaire collector Carlos Monteverdi, and former British hill climb champion David Franklin is at the wheel. So if anyone can get this monster up the hill, he can. He's very quick out of Moulcombe, using all the road at the wall and sweeping out of the left-hander. He's now piling on all the 800 horsepower to go flat out for the finish line. 42, 43, 44. It's going to be a quick one, 47:48.2 seconds, and that surely is the fastest time of day. Now, over 1,000 horsepower in this 1972 Can-Am Porsche 917. George Follmer won the 1972 Can-Am Championship in this car, and it's demonstrated today by Dominic Dobson. No fewer than 5 different generations of these Can-Am 917s are here at Goodwood, and in their final turbocharged form, they were the most powerful sports racing cars of all time. Well, the most successful Can-Am cars of all time were the McLarens. This is a 1971 McLaren Chevrolet M8F, an 8.4-litre pushrod V8, 800 horsepower and enough torque to pull you up the side of a house. Current owner Richard Eyre rebuilt this glorious monster from a complete wreck. The Flat 12 Porsche 917 was originally built as a long-distance Le Mans type sports car with a roof, and it was only converted to an open spider for the lucrative Can-Am series. But then European race organisers started running events for these spectacular cars, and this 917 ran in Europe in the mid-1970s in the so-called Inter-Serie Championship, with podium finishes at Hockenheim, Nürburgring and Zandvoort before ending up in an American museum. Now, 30 years after it first raced, it's been revived by German historic racer Ottokar von Jacobs. Very short wheelbase on these cars and a huge rear wing that's designed with the low shovel nose to stop these immensely powerful cars from leaving the tarmac and becoming a low-flying aeroplane. But now, let's return to Louise, who's in the Cartier Style Luxe paddock.
This might look like a child's toy, but it's not. This is a perfect scale replica of the Riley Brooklands model. It was built for the son of Percy McClure, who was one of Riley's works drivers back in the 1930s. He did actually race it as well, reach speeds of up to 60 miles an hour, which is going something in a car this size. It's just one of the little cars on display here in the Cartier exhibition area. Lancia. This is a Rolls-Royce here, something for the small children, but something for the big child as well. This might look like an ordinary estate car, but believe you me, it's not. Actually, if you have a look down there, that badge will give it away for you. This is an estate version of a Ferrari 456 GT. Only 7 of these were ever made, and it's just one of the bespoke estate cars here in the Cartier exhibition. There's another Ferrari there. Over here, we've got an Aston Martin DB5. Personally, I'm not quite too sure about these. Look a wee bit strange to me. I prefer my cars in their natural state. Like this over here, isn't this beautiful? Mercedes-Benz Gullwing. It was the fastest production car in the world at the time it was built, and I still think it's one of the most beautiful as well. So while I drool over this, let's go and catch up with Tony Jardine. He's getting a bit frustrated, I think, down on the start line.
Right. I've had enough of that Jenson Button, because he's been giving me stick all weekend long about this supercar run, saying I'm the young buck, I'm the young superstar, you're just an ageing TV person. I've got the map, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to put him in his place, I'm going to set a challenge, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet to this young Button fella. Had enough. Oi, Button, come on, out you go. Challenge on.
Hey?
I've had enough stick from you. Look, it's very dangerous up there. I don't think you should do this. Come on, out the car.
What's the problem, Jardine?
Listen, Tony Fisichella's the name.
Fisichella?
Montoya's the name, mate. I'm going to give you flat. Now, look, you've got a lot more power than me, but we've got a lot of money riding on this, and I'm going to get to the top of the hill quicker than you, pal.
I'm really scared. Tony Fisichella. An old fart in a hairdresser's car.
Get it.
Come on, man.
I'll be waiting for you at the top, all right? And we're checking the watches. Building up to the start now. Here we are on the start line. What to do? Give it plenty. Now we're off. Now up here is a 90 right, I think. It says in my little note. Oh, I better watch where I'm going. Remember what Brundle said? Well, missed that apex by about a mile. And that one. Sorry, Martin, where are you when I need you for the on-track guide? I've got to remember this bit. Up here. Look at the crane. Now this is where it's really gets very narrow down here. Look at this. Ooh, now we're in the big tunnel now. Well, now I wonder, Button won't be able to go as quickly as this, surely not. Oh, here's his lordship's wall. Oh, sire, and the car's twitching. God, nearly bricked it there. Stay out late for the second apex. Into third. This is a long right-hander. Is it a long right-hander? I think it is. Yeah, it is. Out through the tunnel, the hail bale's very safe. Flat, fourth. Now, where's this one going? I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. There's the finish line ahead. Button is never going to beat this time. Go on, Jenson. Cross the line. Slowing down. The other car's coming right behind. Where did he come from? Must have been going a bit slow. Challenge on. Young whippersnapper to the old chap. There he is. Come on. Gents, I actually beat you by 7 seconds. Is that all right? Okay.
Excuse me.
7 seconds.
7 seconds.
I think there's going to be a bit of trouble there.
Is there? Did you try it or not?
No,
You didn't?
I can't do it like you see.
Oh dear.
So there's just 7 seconds in it.
7 seconds? You joking?
No,
I start pushing a bit hard, haven't I?
no, I think it was really about 4 or 5 seconds between us, something like that. So yeah, so there's life in the old dog yet, isn't there?
My seat's available, man, if you want it. I'm really, really upset now.
Enjoy it?
Yeah, it's good. I think I'm about to get a telling off though, but
Can we film that?
well, a telling off, you can if you want to.
Jenson, can I have a word with you, please? Yeah.
Jenson's youthful exuberance getting him into a bit of hot water there. Well, next up, the young at heart Murray Walker takes a trip down memory lane in the Formula One paddock. And Ford celebrates 100 years in motorsport. Welcome back. Bentley made a triumphant return to Le Mans this year. They finished in 3rd place. They brought one of the cars to Goodwood this weekend, and who better to drive it up the hill than Martin Brundle. But first, Ford celebrate 100 years of motorsport.
For Ford and motor racing, this is how it all started. This is a replica of the car that Henry Ford himself drove in a 10-mile match race in 1901. It averaged 45 miles an hour to win the $1,000 first prize, which helped Henry set up the Ford Motor Company a year later. The 1963 Lola Mark VI was taken over by Ford and became the GT40. The same engine powered the Ford Mustang, a huge commercial success, but also a race winner. And here's the immortal GT40, which beat the mighty Ferrari to win Le Mans 4 years on the trot, twice in the blue and orange Gulf colours of John Wyre's JW Automotive team. Less successful was the Ford F3L, effectively a Cosworth-powered Grand Prix car with a coupe body. It was always tremendously fast in the major sports car races, but scored no wins. Ford has a tremendous rallying history with the familiar Mark I Escort, the awesome RS200 mid-engine rally car, later banned, and on to today's super sophisticated Focus WRC with four-wheel drive, electronic 6-speed transmission and extraordinary manoeuvrability. And this is Mark Higgins showing just how manoeuvrable it is. This is the car with which Ford hoped to recapture their domination of loose surface events. Rally superstar Colin McRae has scored 3 wins already this season, and Ford currently lead the fight for the World Manufacturers title. And although he's on tarmac, Mark Higgins is demonstrating the classic loose surface technique into a corner. To turn left, first you turn right to settle the car hard on its right side for maximum grip. It may use the familiar Focus shell, but underneath this car is a highly sophisticated piece of money-no-object competition machinery. Four-wheel drive in rallying started with Audi and the Quattro, which 20 years ago changed the face of the sport. This long wheelbase A2 version, prepared by David Sutton Motorsport, won the 1983 RAC Rally by 9 minutes. And a similar car, driven by Walter Röhrl, dominated the Monte Carlo rally 2 months later. Renault went a different route. In a humble hatchback shell, they put a 240 horsepower turbocharged engine where the back seat was meant to be. At the wheel today is 1981 Monte Carlo rally winner Jean Ragnotti. The Lancia Stratos grew out of a Bertone show exhibit into a purpose-designed rally car with a Ferrari V6 engine in the tail. Sandro Minari was almost unbeatable in the mid-1970s, winning the Monte Carlo rally 3 years running. And this car is in the classic Alitalia white, green and red colours. This is the one-off Lister Jaguar Coupe built for Peter Lumsden and Peter Sargent to run at Le Mans in 1963, with a special body designed by aerodynamicist Frank Costin. Today it's raced for its Swedish owner by young Justin Law, and he's really pushing hard up the hill. The big Lister looks a tight fit up the narrow track. It's going to be a quick one. The seconds ticking away. He's going for the finish line, 56.5 seconds. We've already seen the Can-Am Porsche 917s. Well, this is the original thing, designed to win 24-hour races at places like Le Mans and Daytona, which is just what it did. This is the classic 917K, shared by Derek Bell and Hans-Jörg Goetzel. K is for Kurz, which means it has the short, open tail, which made these very tricky 500 horsepower flat 12 monsters a little easier to control. This is Hans-Jörg on a fairly circumspect demo run. Derek Bell, of course, the most successful British Le Mans driver of all time. And here's another Le Mans hero, the 1988 XJR9, which scored Jaguar's first win in the 24 hours for over 30 years. Drivers were Andy Wallace, Johnny Dumfries and the little Dutchman Jan Lammers, who's at the wheel today. And this may be only a demo, but Jan is using all the 7 litres huge power and really pushing it up the hill. No demo for Jochen Mass in the C11 Sauber, the World Sports Car Championship winning mark in 1990. This is a timed run for Jochen, and he's going hard into Moulcom. It's a 5-litre supercharged V8 in this car. The young Michael Schumacher was a Sauber team novice in 1990. Locking up a break into Moulcom, and just look at Jochen go. This year's Le Mans heroes were the Bentleys. Martin Brundle led the race before retiring. The sister car finished third, and Martin's got the headlights ablaze in this wonderful ground-hugging machine to bring all the Le Mans atmosphere here to Sussex.
Well, Martin, how did you enjoy that?
Well, it's not really designed for climbing hills, this car, but obviously it's pretty precious as well, having just finished third at Le Mans. So just cruising along, let the fans have a look at it. It's still got all its grime on from when it crossed the line. And it looks very narrow this year. I think they brought the straw bales in a lot from how I remember the track. But it's fine, it darts around a bit. I mean, this car is really designed to go down the Mulsanne straight, not climb up the hill. It's amazing to get in amongst the race fans and to see old cars, new cars, all sorts of people just celebrating motorsport.
Everybody famous in motorsport comes to Goodwood, especially Damon Hill. Looking a bit different. What's all this?
Let's not make any comments about hair, shall we?
Now listen, Damon, you've been out on a bike today.
Yeah.
Is that? Right. Did you prefer that to the cars? Now,
Well, I don't know. I feel a little bit more natural on a bike. You know, you get in a car and you kind of suddenly you can't jump off them. It goes not the way you want
but
to.
But what else? We've missed you in motorsport. What have you been doing with yourself?
I've been doing stuff that I never got a chance to do when I was driving, which is quite
Yeah.
nice. You know, just sort of filling in little things and just enjoying myself.
Big pop concert last night.
I did a gig last night, yeah, with
Eric
the band.
Clapton.
Eric Clapton, yeah, he was all right.
Clapton and Hill. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was good. It was brilliant. Eric Clapton's band was fantastic. We got a band called the Conrods. We sort of play car music.
Well, they all go to seed in the end. Now, listen, it's great to see you again, and I'm off now to see some of the other fabulous cars that are here at Goodwood.
Goodwood is full of nostalgia and memories for me. For instance, I spent 13 years in the commentary box with the great James Hunt, And this is the 1974 Hesketh that he won at Zandvoort in Holland with and beat Niki Lauda in his Ferrari, James's first Grand Prix win. But probably one of his most memorable, as far as I was concerned, was with this very car in 1976. By now, James is with McLaren. The scene is Silverstone. He came in to win the British Grand Prix, and you can imagine what the atmosphere was like. I was standing at the end of the pit lane, and as he turned off the track, having just won the race, I was able to put a microphone down to James's face and get an instant interview. And that was something I've never done before, and I've never done since. Now, this is the 1968 Lotus 49, one of the truly great cars of Grand Prix history, designed by the great Colin Chapman. And it was driven to victory in the 1968 British Grand Prix by the Swiss Joe Siffert, and he was the last private owner to win a British Grand Prix. So now, from 1968 up to 1984, this car is a truly special one. It is the 1.5 litre turbocharged Toleman that arguably one of the greatest drivers of all time, Ayrton Senna, drove to second place in the Monaco Grand Prix. It was appalling weather. Had the race lasted just one more lap, he would have passed Alain Prost and won a Grand Prix in his very first season. Great driver, great memories, and this place is absolutely full of them. That Toleman was very special, but these Ferraris are absolutely fantastic because Ferrari is the most historic, the most charismatic name in Formula One. For instance, in 1975, the great Niki Lauda in this flat 12 boxer won the World Championship. This one too is a very historic car, but this car in 1982 I saw being driven by Gilles Villeneuve, the father of Jacques Villeneuve, one of the most exciting Grand Prix victories of all time in 1982. The car handled like a barn door, but its turbo engine was fantastic, and Villeneuve was able to keep ahead of everybody else, and the first 5 were covered by less than a second. And here, Jody Scheckter, the South African, won the 1979 Grand Prix at Monza, and I was talking about it, and this is a flat 12 car. It's truly historic, like all of them. But now, let's join Simon Taylor and see some of these fabulous cars in action at Goodwood on the track.
Thanks, Murray. Well, one of today's Formula One drivers who really appreciates history is John Alesi. He was a Ferrari driver for 5 seasons, but he was little more than a toddler when Chris Amon and Derek Bell raced this beautiful 312 F1 car in 1968. And here is that historic Hesketh. The crash helmet is the late James Hunt's. Wearing it is his younger brother David. For all of us who saw James race for Lord Hesketh's team, it's a truly nostalgic sight. This is the car James used to score his historic Dutch Grand Prix win in 1975. And this is the 1978 Ferrari T3 of Pink Floyd drummer Nick Mason. It's the famous car, chassis 034, with which Gilles Villeneuve, father of Jacques, scored his first F1 win in his home Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. And this shows how Formula One cars have changed in 22 years. The 2000 Ferrari, which took Michael Schumacher to last year's World Drivers' Championship, test driver Luca Badoa at the wheel. Now, you remember our F1 ITV competition. The prize was a ride in the Minardi 2-seater Formula One car. One of the 2 lucky winners was Barry Smith, and Minardi team boss Paul Stoddart is his chauffeur up the Goodwood Hill. And he's making sure that Barry is experiencing all that F1 power. No traction control there. Australian entrepreneur Paul Stoddart took over Minardi at the start of this season, but he's also no mean single-seater driver himself and a successful racer of historic Formula One cars. Barry craning his helmet to the side to try to get a view of where they're going as they rocket up the hill, through the right, then left, past the wall, and on towards the finish line.
Have you enjoyed yourself?
Thoroughly, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, super.
What's the big impression?
Just the sheer quality of the grip and the steering and the ability to take corners at speed. I mean, it's stunning, really. And it's a superb experience. I recommend it to anybody.
But you just don't want it to finish, I guess.
Well, that's why I'm staying in the car. I'm enjoying it so much. I'm going to have a ride down the hill as well. So I've had 3 today. 1 to the start, 1 up through the hill, and 1 back down the hills. Excellent.
Here's the wild boy of Formula One, Eddie Irvine, and his mount for this season, the Jaguar R2. After a difficult first season for Jaguar last year, the results are starting to come now, and Irvine's undoubted talent is beginning to get the equipment it needs to pull in the podiums. Eddie's been besieged by autograph hunters here, but he's been thoroughly good-humoured and he's enjoying the Goodwood weekend. He's come to a halt to do another demonstration start. Traction control obviously turned off because it's a lot more spectacular that way. This is the BAR Honda with test driver Darren Manning at the wheel. A demo start from him. And that's what 800 horsepower looks like. And another one. All the power going down on the tarmac, and it's very hard to control a twitching Formula One car like that. Now McLaren's test driver Alex Wurz putting the rubber down. The lofty Austrian lost his race drive at Benetton, but he's impressing a lot of people in the Woking team with his application and good-humoured intelligence during the long days and weeks of testing that are part and parcel of the modern Formula One routine. Little wave at Moulcombe to the crowd delighted to see last year's McLaren being exercised by Alex Wurz. And here's Formula One's latest hot property, Juan Pablo Montoya. He doesn't want to be left out of the Goodwood fun either. He's in last year's Williams BMW FW22, and already this year he's battled past Michael Schumacher to lead the Brazilian Grand Prix. Wonderful standing start before he gets to the second right-hander, through the cement dust, the car twitching before he comes to a halt again for yet another demonstration start. It's Montoya's first visit to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, but he's flung himself into the weekend with gusto. An ideal climax to an extraordinary event.
Well, that's just about it from Goodwood. We'll be back with you tomorrow, of course, with live coverage of the British Grand Prix. But before we go, there's time for one final bit of action from the track. We've seen some beautiful race cars powering up this hill this afternoon. Now it's time to watch a slightly more eclectic bunch of racers hurtling back down again. It's the Soapbox Derby. Let the chaos get underway.
Start your engine.
Who is winning the race? Dick Dastardly, don't you forget it.
It's the biggest British sporting event of the summer.
The British Grand Prix is one of the oldest of the Formula One events. It's going to get better.
The hope of the country lies with one man.
There's Coulthard. This is David Coulthard.
David Coulthard wants yet another podium.
With national pride at stake, can Coulthard erase the memory of France?
We believe there's a 10-second stop-and-go penalty.
And make it 3 British Grand Prix wins in a row. The British Grand Prix, live and exclusive, tomorrow on ITV.